All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode, actually, episode 218 of the Broker to Broker podcast. I'm your host, Mark Summers, founding president of AIME. Also have my own broker shop here in Michigan called Priority Mortgage Lending. But that's enough about me today. Today, we got a very, very exciting episode for our broker community. Listen, this is just going to be fun. He has a lot of insight on a lot of different things. But today, we will be talking to broker owner of Atwood Mortgage, Bryan Atwood. Bryan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Excited to be here.
Good deal. Good deal. Hey, we're going to hop right into it. Just kind of give us a little bit of background of how you got started in this business. I think you've been in real estate, kind of grew up in real estate, but I'm not trying to spoil it, but the way you started Atwood Mortgage absolutely blows my mind. But I'll let you tell the story. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So like you were saying, my family's actually been in real estate for 6 generations. So my brothers and I are 6th generation. We have a real estate franchise. We used to joke that, when somebody in the Atwood family was born, they got their birth certificate and real estate license at the same time. And that's just how it goes in Minnesota. But so we kind of grew up in it. We got to experience our dad coaching and nurturing realtors and growing. And as we took over, we started realizing that there's so many issues in real estate that we never saw because our dad always handled it. And once we really boiled it down and discussing, wow, look at all these problems, there was a common issue, which was lenders, right? So many issues that were popping up and closings not happening and everything were caused by different, banks, lenders that were just not really putting the care that the realtors were into their files. And so we just had a light bulb go off several years ago, about 4 years ago now, to say, if all these issues are lenders, why don't we try and figure that out and fix that? So we talked about it. We actually did research. I mean, we considered everything under the sun of how do we do this? We talked to retail shops. I talked to others, LOs around, until we stumbled upon the broker world and said hey, we know nothing about mortgages, but why not? Let's open up a mortgage brokerage.
See, and that's the wild thing for me there is that you guys opened up Atwood Mortgage with zero lending experience.
None.
Tell me, okay, there's going to be a 2-part question here. I'm just going to ask the first part. What were some trials and tribulations right when you hopped into it?
Well, there was a lot, of course. As getting it open wasn't the hard part, which was surprising because when I talked to different retail LOs, I'm like, oh, there's just so much and starting and creating an LLC and licensing and all this. And we just kind of stumbled upon AIME and also UWM. And to go through and say hey, we want to open a shop. And they go, cool, here's how you do it. And right. And it's literally a bullet point, do these things. We're like, okay, great. That part was easy. It was actually once we got licensed, it was April of 2021 that we officially announced to our realtors, which was our first goal, was hey, we've got some realtors. Let's try and give them a better experience. And then it's just exploded from there. But it was once we were done, we were licensed, we launched, we announced, and then we're like, okay, now what? Right. And we get an application in. What do I do with it? We've actually never done this before. So it was scary. I leaned on, I'm happy to say there weren't a lot of trials and tribulations, but there was a lot of concern and a little anxiety. But the cool thing was the tools were there. We were able to lean on our AEs, and I'm not sure. I mean, shout out to Samit, my first AE I had at UWM, and we got a file in. I'm like, okay, now what? What do I do with these pay stubs? What do I do with these W-2s? And it was just oh my gosh, what kind of shop is this? But it's just exploded from there. The cool thing is having the resources available as long as you know where to look. And just my personality, I'm somebody that I despise not knowing things. So it actually was a new world to me when I fell in love with was the guidelines are there. We can go read them. We can go learn them. There's all these classes coming out constantly. There's the AIME Academy. That was a huge help as well.
That's great. So tell me about the Academy real quick. What did you like about it?
Just that I had somebody trying to put information in front of me that was not steered to a particular lender, or I sat with several AEs. I'm like, how do you do this? And it was always, well, here's how we do it, right? Here's how our tools help you. I'm like, that's great. I want to know those too, but I just need to know, how do I do a VA loan? What are these goofy rules about FHA loans? How do I calculate income? So just straight to the point. Go through, here's some methods, here's some tools to be able to do these things.
Now that you've been in it for 4 years, time flies in the lending industry, doesn't it? But actually just real estate, period, it flies. But now that you've been in it 4 years, looking back on it, what would you possibly have done different? Because the reason why I asked that is we have we have a lot of people that are very interested in hopping over to the broker world. Like I think a lot of this facade, this false narrative is it's kind of being dispelled right now. And we have a lot of retail people that actually listen to these episodes, and this is absolutely perfect because they're scared. They don't believe in a lot of things. But looking back on it now, what's one thing you wish you would have done different?
I'd say probably more connections earlier on, right? Realize that I was blessed. I reached out to one of the first brokers I spoke to was Tom Allis. I scheduled a call with him. He was doing that. And so I'm in Minnesota too. And I was like, he want to schedule a call? I'm like, I'm 20 minutes away. Why don't I come over? And he spent a lot of time with me going through like, here's how he would do it, he would structure, pointing me in the direction of some tools to use. But I've learned so much since then. And I think it's tough because you can't know everything. You can't, it's real estate. It's lending. Issues pop up all the time. I'm grateful and blessed that we've done as many files as we have in the last 4 years, 3 years actually. But things still surprise me every day, right? Something pops up. I'm like, I haven't ever seen that condition before. That's crazy. Let's go dig into that. So knowing the tools, knowing the support that's there, I definitely, even though UWM helped and AIME helped, I still kind of felt like it's on me. I got to figure this out. And yeah, I was a one-man shop, but there's still a lot more out there and people that are willing to help that I could have connected with sooner.
Yeah, no, Tom is one of the most selfless people out there. He's a great individual. And for those of you that don't know Tom Allis, he has one of the biggest broker shops in the nation, Edge Home Finance. And he's also on the board with AIME, and he brings a ton of insight. He's always energetic. I don't know where he gets this energy from, but that's just a quick shout out to Tom. I didn't know we were going to do that, but he's phenomenal.
No,
okay. So
funny, just to add on to that with Tom, it's like you would think, hey, new person coming in has real estate. He'd just be, trying to recruit, right? And that couldn't be further from the truth. As hell, he was literally giving me the script of here's how you can beat me. I'm like, really? Holy smoke! So that was kind of eye-opening and surprising to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, that's him. That's his personality. Okay, so you're sixth generation real estate family. Okay, you're going to have great insight on, like real estate agents.
Yeah.
We all chase them. We all say, let's just be honest here. We all say the same thing within reason. Like we're the fastest. We have more programs. We have this. We have that. We try to be difference makers here. But growing up in real estate, from your perspective, what is the number one frustration realtors have with loan officers and lenders?
Well, it's delays, right? It's that they know that things are sitting on a desk and not moving forward for weeks on end. It's always the last minute surprises, and they're afraid. Sure, it's always great to have that top realtor doing 20, 30 million plus. But a lot of realtors are like, they might have 10 deals this year, and to put it in somebody's hands that they don't know what the speed's going to be like, what the experience is going to be like, but also it's the biggest eye-opening thing to me when I came in was how little we knew about lending. And then as I started researching, being like, oh, wow, realtors, not calling anyone out, but realtors as a whole typically know squat about lenders and vice versa. So it goes both ways. And that like, we kind of know what a little bit of what each person does, but has an LO ever gone to a listing appointment? Have they ever sat down with a new prospective buyer to talk through wants, needs, understand the process, understand those contracts? Do they read through the representation contracts? It's a scary thing. And so our experience was, hey, we really build out how do we get listings? How do we get buyers? And then once we finally find the right home and get under contract, besides the inspection, we toss the file over to a lender and say, gosh, I hope that closes in a month. And they just wait until they have the bad news, right? That there's an issue and they know nothing else what happened there. So for me, our big win, not only just with our own realtors, but also in growing it with other brokerages. That was a big assumption when we first got started was like, oh, Atwood Mortgage is going to work with Atwood Realty. Well, of course. But I mean, the first quarter of this year, we had loans with 15 different brokerages. And it's like everyone's kind of seeing the writing on the wall of what we're doing and how we can help. And I think a lot of that is I'm not calling and asking realtors to coffee. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying don't do it, but we instead like to, I tell the story. I post a lot on social media in an educational sense to say like, hey, here's the issues. Let me call out some issue that you realtors see all the time. And here's what we're doing differently. And then have the realtors start reaching out to us to say,
Right.
hey, can you really do that? Like, yeah, we can. Or, hey, I just got a VA client and I know you guys specialize in VA. Can you help out? And so we're not the one always begging for business. We just trying to give first, help them run a better business, give them tools, meet with them and just educate. Because the more they know about our process, the better they're going to do for their clients as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I actually went on my first they were friends of mine and they wanted me there. And I went on like a listing appointment, and it was mind blowing to me. It really was. And I think, it's like we talk all the time about education. Educate yourself on that side of it too.
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably say the most successful thing as you say, realtors know stuff is sitting there, they're not updated. What I get permission from my clients is, listen, how do you want to be communicated? Email or text?
Right.
You know what I mean? And most of them are texts. Let's just be honest here, because everyone, when they wake up in the morning, they have 300 emails and 298 of them are garbage. So I send them text messages like literally every time there's an update. And then I say, these are the next steps. And it has changed so much, you know what I mean? Of realtors, they want to trust you. And that's what it boils down to, because you control their paycheck.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
How did you solve all of this? Like, I mean, especially on a learning curve, how did you solve this and differentiate yourself?
It was just trying to connect and say, I understand, right? I understand what you guys are going through, the stresses they have, the importance. So how can we do this together? And I've always loved being able to not beg for business, but try and find the client first. So we don't do a ton of direct to consumer advertising, but things happen, right? We have opportunities. Sometimes they just fall in our lap. And I love teeing up that, like, here's a realtor I want to work with. I want to show off what we can do. So let me introduce you to a paycheck on my own. Before you risk yours with me, let me give you one. But there's still hesitation. There always is. There's plenty of realtors that we haven't worked with. And it's just kind of keep on breaking down those walls to show that, hey, this is what the experience can look like, not what you're used to. I have realtors that I'm friends with on Facebook still posting like, hey, here's the typical timeline of a purchase until actual closing, and they're listing out a 45 to 60-day process. That's what we're setting the standard for. It's insane. And no, we don't always need to close in 2 weeks, but being able to show like we can, because we have a great process and you can be involved in it and you can be informed on everything that's happening so you can control it more. We can get more referrals together.
That's perfect. All right, let's do like a semi role play here. I'm not going to do a full blown role play. Don't get me wrong on that. Not putting you on the spot here. But if you're talking to a local realtor, someone that you kind of want to get in with, and they say, you know what, I already have a lender, or all these lenders are the same. What is your response to that?
The biggest eye-opening thing for most realtors is that I say all lenders are great. Right. I'll tell them like, listen, you have a guy, like relationships are huge. I don't care where he works. If you work together, you go to church together, you understand they're fantastic. They can do a lot of cool things. That's great. They're a great lender. That's a great person. Thing is, all lenders are great. If they weren't, they'd be going into the dirt. So they're all good, but no lender is good at everything. Nobody can do everything. There's no one size fits all. They all have their buckets. And I joke about some of our lenders I know that we both work with. That's like they can niche so small to say, hey, if this is a 249K loan with a certain income bracket, this lender is untouchable. Like they're blow everyone else out of the water. If it's a $250,000 loan, they're terrible. They're not even close, right? And that exists in our world. So understand that, like, just don't think that whatever lending option you're used to is the best for the client, because it's not. And when we see things, I challenge a lot and ask people for, did you get loan estimates? Can we see them? Can we go over them together and show, oh, look, we could have saved $4,000, $5,000, whatever it may be for that individual client. And then sometimes it's challenging them too, right? I had a conversation with, we get the in, we have the conversation. They're like, okay, well, we'll kind of keep you in the rotation, right? We like to send one to our friend we go to church with, and then this guy down the bank, so we've known him forever. And then we'll send you one every once in a while too. Like, that's great. But if we can show you that we're going to be $5,000 cheaper for that client, how do you decide which client gets to save $5,000 and which one has to pay $5,000 more? And kind of puts them back into that seat of like, well, shoot, like, do you want to charge that client more? Like, no, because right on the real estate side, they're really focused on their fiduciary duties. They need to be the expert because the client isn't. They're not expected to know all these things that a realtor knows. And so once a realtor does know that there is a faster, cheaper, better option, how do you send clients away from that option? So it's initial contact is hard sometimes. It's better to meet in more circumstantial things, happy hour, something else, versus just trying to force people to meet with you. Because man, realtors get those calls all the time. We're tired of them. We don't want to meet everyone for coffee to hear the same pitch. And especially when you take away from like, I'm not saying that any particular one of my lenders are great. They're all good. They're all good at certain things, but we like to customize and tailor a solution for this unique client to make sure it's the best long-term solution possible.
That's awesome. That's hitting the nail on the head right there, Bryan. I 100% agree with you. And kind of going off of that on the realtor side, and I know you're like a VA loan specialist as well. You were a veteran as well, correct?
Yep. I was active Army for 4 years and then a couple in the reserves.
Well, as always, thank you for your service. That's absolutely amazing. But you being a VA loan specialist, and there's a misconception out there from many realtors that no VA financing, which blows my mind because I personally think it's the best loan out there. So when that comes up, like what's some of the most common misconceptions agents have, and how do you battle that?
Oh man, there are so many. I usually will ask where that's coming from. And it's sometimes like with anything, you had one bad experience. If you go to a restaurant, they serve you a terrible meal, you never want to go to that restaurant again. Anything could have happened. There might be a lot of reasons, and they might have just had a bad chef that night and they fired him and they fixed it. And it's the same in the VA loan world. It's like I agree. I wholeheartedly think it's the best loan product there is. The easiest to get approved for, the most flexible in terms of if issues do pop up. But realtors still go like, well, yeah, they call out so many issues, right? There are going to be so many NPR issues that come up. They appraise low. They have other things. So we show and try and educate. We actually teach a class on this. So kind of a different myth busting class. We have a couple different ones. But I encourage all LOs to like understand this product better and educate realtors on it. You don't have to ask for business. All I do is post regularly. And in fact, just timing, it's Memorial Day this weekend. So share some VA tips, right? And if you don't know them, look them up. Join a vetted VA or any other VA education group that can help you learn these things. So understanding that there are no DTI limits, there are no minimum credit scores. Sometimes there are appraisal shortages, not to specifically for VA, but for any loan. Appraisal issues happen sometimes. So understand what happens next, right? Is Tidewater being called? Can we try and push that process? And if we lose there, let's go to the ROV process. Let's work through that. Understand, call and talk to your local RLC, your regional loan center. At least for us, I don't call all of them around the country, but for us, ours are fantastic. They're so helpful. They want you to know. We had a recent experience at a realtor, not to get long-winded here, but former client sending over his buddy, another veteran, and they've been working with a local retail shop for over a month trying to get this guy's COE. And the problem was the loan officer knew squat about VA loans, and the VA had no idea what they were trying to ask for as well. Not that they knew what they're asking for. They didn't understand what the loan officer wanted. So they're going back and forth. You can see in Web LGY of like, okay, I'm asking for this. And then they provided something else. And I'm like, wait, now that's confusing. And a back foot over a month trying to get this guy's COE. Finally, he connects and says like, hey, can we figure this out? I just called the RLC and say like, hey, what's going on with this guy? He's fine. You think he's still in service. He's not. We had a COE within an hour. Just knowing what that process is. And once we've got that COE, again, golden ticket, everyone, you have to have it up front. It made the rest of the process go great. So when a realtor is saying, hey, we don't like VA, challenge them, call them, ask them, right? Or if your buyer's agent is saying, oh, we looked at this property and it's only listing conventional cash FHA as being accepted, call and ask why, right? Is it because you're concerned about property requirements? As you know, a lot of people think that conventional means buy anything you want. Conventional has NPRs too. There's issues there. And if you do have something that you think is absolutely ridiculous, you might be able to get it waived. You might be able to call them and go through that process and say, you know what, the veteran doesn't want that. Or you know what, yeah, we get that the deck stain looks terrible, but he wants to do that himself later on, and it's not a safety concern. Then get it waived. Sometimes appraisers don't know those rules either.
Right. Right. I love it because you keep saying challenge people. That's probably going to be the title of this episode now. But and it's funny because I was speaking to someone who has been on the real estate side for about a year, and I know them personally, and I can have an honest conversation with them. And I said, "Why is VA financing not allowed on this?" And they're like, "Oh, my broker owner says they're not good." I'm like, "Well, no, but you listed it. Why?" My broker owner. It's like it's like passed down from lineage.
Right.
Maybe when VA was in a bad spot at one time, but it has changed completely.
Sure. Yeah. And to that point, for other things too, I think that was actually weirdly a benefit for us in coming into the lending world and not having a lending background. Is there was no bad habits or messages. We went blank slate and said, teach me how loans work, right? Make this make sense to me. And that is true with talking to underwriters, talking to team leads, talking to across the board. I can't tell you how many times we've had to escalate a dozen times just because I'm saying that doesn't make sense to me yet, right? Challenge it, make sure that the realtor, you give me a good reason, and then we're fine. I'm okay with no, but make it make sense. These guidelines are there. These guidelines and rules are there for a reason. So let's figure it out. And more like shocking amount of the time we've been able to escalate up. I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense yet. That still doesn't make sense. That still doesn't make sense. And then it's approved. Like, no kidding. Like, wow. And it was just because we didn't take no for an answer, right? We have to figure out and challenge and push the limits to know why these are there. Don't just take, an underwriter's answer, a list agent's answer, anyone else as the gospel. It's not.
Yeah, they're all human. At some point, they're human, and a lot of times, what I've learned is, as long as it makes sense, you know what I mean. And as long as you can have a little documentation with it, it's absolutely fine.
Right.
So let's hop over to the AIME side of things here. You know what I mean? Because you used us as I'll say it, a springboard to help you grow,
100%.
right?
Yep.
Obviously Tom Ollie is reaching out to you. I didn't even know if you knew that he was probably an AIME member at the time or something. But when it came to AIME itself, like, what was one thing that you go, wow, I need to be a part of this association and it helped me? I know you said the academy, but there's got to be more to it.
There is. I got in early on. I heard you speak a couple times actually at UWM. I went to all their, like, any classes I could find. It was just like, I want to go. I need to learn. If we want to say that we're going to be the consumer's best option, it's got to be true. We got to figure it out. So that was great. I went to my first Fuse in 2021 before we licensed our brokerage. So got to hear from some great people, I think some great introductions, just see all of the vendors and tools that were there, and bump into a bunch of brokers that I just recognize the names of because I've been following the page, figuring out what's going on, and be like, hey, you're, and it can be one of the first people I talked to also was Andy Trino. So also with Tom. And
another great guy.
Like, hey, what should I do? And he's like, oh man, you should do a lot of things. And we chatted, and he helped give me a lot of guidelines. But nobody was ever like, you're being dumb, right? You should go work for somebody else. You should figure this out. It's like, hey, use your resources, right? Lean on everyone else. So AIME helped me with a lot of those introductions, get introduced to people, start building out our tech stack because of all the vendors that they have. And it was pretty early on. I can't remember all the membership levels now, but we were an elite member. And so that's where, at the time, if it still is, we were able to utilize escalations. And it was pretty early on that I had a file. It was our fault that we're in a situation that we're like, shoot, we're struggling. Like, we did not cross this bridge when we pre-approved. We've got issues now. I still think this should work, but man, we're way behind here. We're struggling. We just could not get past the underwriters. So I utilized that pretty early on, 100% saved a deal for me. And then, so that had to be 2.5 years ago. And from then on, I'm like, well, that just put money in my pocket. There's other people fighting for my loan, and I'm one tiny little single man shop. I need to be a VIP member. So I did it right away. I'm like, oh, that's where that paycheck's going, because it just opens that door. Having that conversations, teaching me about the industry, teaching me about tips and tricks and things to look out for, and learning who the main leaders are in this industry that to look to for more help.
That's perfect. Okay, so let's just say you're talking to someone. Do you plan on coming to Fuse this year?
I do.
Let me
Yep.
just ask it.
Yep.
Perfect. It's in Nashville, October 23rd.
Yep.
It's going to be an absolute riot. So I'll make sure that that we get together. But at the same time, let's just say you go to Fuse this year and you see a retail person there, someone like in your situation, you're like, I think I'm going to do this, but I just kind of want a little bit more info. What is the number one benefit or something that you would give advice to people of saying you need to tap into AIME in this category or do this first?
Well, I mean, I learned this more through other brokers that also made the transition from retail because I didn't have the retail background. So I didn't even realize until being a few years in just how limited and more challenging that avenue seems to be. And I guess in my world, I like to tell everyone I'm not the best salesperson at all, bar none, right? I'd put me up against a bunch of other people, I'll probably lose. Why would I not want options? Why would I not want to be able to customize and curate a unique solution for clients? And that's what the broker channel gives. And then beyond that, why would I not want to partner with an association that's going to help me understand all these things? Because it's a lot to learn. It's a lot of products with a lot of lenders and a lot of goofy rules and overlays that different lenders can have that exists everywhere. But we've got people that have figured that out already. Right. So it's like there's all these other leaders saying like, hey, we tried this already. We tested this. We succeeded. We failed. It's just a culmination of knowledge that when you can lean on something like that, this isn't scary at all. It's like, great, I'm going to open up my own shop, get to play by some of my own rules, and have a lot of people a lot smarter than me that can help me along the way.
That's awesome. And that's what it's about. That's my favorite thing. I tell people all the time. My favorite thing about AIME is the community, and we all come to a point where it's something that we've never been a part of, right? Or like a guideline or a situation. And I always tell people, yes, you need to go look up guidelines, you know what I mean? Because that's your job. But at the same time, rely on the Brokers Are Best Facebook group page. Get in there and put in a question. I can almost guarantee you that someone has come across that before and they can give you real life solutions.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I'm moderating now for a couple other groups and helping out, not in the Brokers Are Better group, but I was looking at my little page the other day where you can see the summary of you in that group. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but something around like in the last 3 years, close to 150 post questions from me and everything. I'm like, man, I ask a lot of questions. This is crazy. But I always get answers, right? I always get answers and things that I might not have thought of. Like, hey, I've got an income issue. I had this pop up. I've got a weird scenario. Somebody out there has done it and has a fantastic solution for it.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. You don't have to, we're all going to feel alone in this journey at sometimes, but you don't have to. You know what I mean? And that's what this group's for. So, hey, Bryan, listen, thanks, dude. You were absolutely amazing today. I appreciate you taking the time out to get on this episode. And it's listen, it was great. It was a great conversation. You have a lot of insight. I love the fact how you're saying you challenge people. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way. Like you said, you're not a salesman. You said it, not me. You said I'm not a great salesman. Yeah. I think you're phenomenal. I'll just say that, but you challenge them to make it make sense. And I think that's perfect. And I appreciate your time today.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mark. There's so many people on both sides that's just like, again, we're following the status quo. We do what we're told that somebody else had an experience, whether it be VA or how transactions are supposed to go. And I like to figure out where was that set in stone? Why can't we do things differently? Why can't we push harder, help people in a different way, and break free from just expectations? Go out, find a new experience. That itself is going to set you apart from any other LOs out there.
That's perfect, my man. I appreciate your time today. Brokers, if you want to catch up on all of our past podcast episodes, as well as other AIME Network podcasts, please head over to aimegroup.com/broker to broker. You can also listen and watch all AIME Network podcast episodes on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. If you're on YouTube, please use our handle and subscribe to it at AIME National for more great wholesale content. Everyone else, please rate our podcast, leave a review. It helps us spread the word and providing to everyone that brokers are best. And Bryan, you're one of those. And thanks for your time again today.
Thanks so much, Mark.